We are going to start our session. So everybody who's outside are requested to come inside, and volunteers can ask people to come inside so we can start our session. So my first speaker will start from Dr. Ayesha Siddiqa. She is a senior fellow in Department of War Studies at King's College London, renowned for her critical analysis of military powers and its socio-economic impact. She is the author of two influential books, including globally recognized military enclave, Inside Pakistan's Military Economy, which explores the vast role of Pakistani military in the country's economy and offers groundbreaking insight into military-owned businesses and their influence on governance. Dr. Siddiqa holds expertise in security studies, military-civil relations, and South Asian politics. Her work critically examines power structure within the Pakistan and broader regional dynamics, making her respected voice in the international policy and defense discussions. She regularly writes critical columns for prominent English language newspapers such as Dawn, Daily Times, and Express Tribune. Her columns appear every Friday. Dr. Siddiqa has also served as a visiting scholar at Johns Hopkins University. Dr. Siddiqa, floor is yours. Thank you.
वैसे शेर व शायरी के सेशन में ज़्यादा रौनक थी। Extremely grateful to World Sindhi Congress to invite me.
ये तीसरा ही रशा ये दिख रही है स्टार्टिंग में
The reference is much better organized event. I was asked to speak on the land and the occupation, land occupation. The Sindh government has recently, in this last 1 year, given about 70,000 acres of land to the Sindh. 48,000 particularly in Khairpur and KT Bandar, other areas, all of that. However, let me take this opportunity, and I was supposed to talk about it. And what I thought that in my 10, 15 minutes I would quickly talk about the problem of land allocation in Sindh, but in its broader context. I will talk about the evolution of the military, which now includes Sindh as well, a great portion of Sindh, land distribution, and what has happened to the Pakistani state itself. So these three things. But before I get to my point, let me take this opportunity to say that land acquisition by the military is not a problem, just kind of limited to Sindh. In these last couple of years, 100,000 acres of land in southern Punjab, mainly southern Punjab, have also been given to the military to expand, to build on agriculture, for capitalist ventures, and of course, we know what happens to this land. It is a larger problem, and I think that a solution cannot be solved if the problem is not seen in its wider context. It is the problem is largely the problem of the Pakistani state. It has always grown as a bureaucratic polity. The control of the military dates back to the 1950s, and it has grown over years, not just on its own, but also with the help of the political elite, of the civil society elite, of largely the elite groups in Pakistan. So when I look at the military, it's not just one institution. It's also a larger fraternity which includes civilians. Ladies and gentlemen, I come from South Punjab. It is South Punjab, a Saraiki speaking area of Punjab. At least you have Sindh, Baloch friends, they have Balochistan. I don't that way have a territory which I can call, which I can relate with my cultural linguistic identity. And the problem is that is also an area where a lot of land acquisition is taking place. And before I get to more of that discussion, let me also very quickly deviate and read out to you a poem by a Saraiki poet, which is about land, which is about repression. ये नज़म है जहांगीर मुखलिस साहब की। साढ़े मत्थे ते लाके मोहरा असां तू सादा ना पुछनी वे साढ़े होठां ते बूट रख के और सारी जबान पुछनी असां को सारा लिबास पुछने असां को सारी सुनाण पुछनी साढ़े पटके को करके वीरा वाली सारा ध्यान ये जख्म सारे शुमार थी से अजा दिखावण दा हुक्म देनी असां समंदर मिजाज लोकां को हंज बहावण दा हुक्म देनी मैं ये नहीं चाहता कि रोशनी दा मिनारा मेरा पिछावा होवे मैं ये नहीं चाहता कि मेरा फटका कहीं दे तल दा बनावा हो मैं ये नहीं चाहता कि भरिया सड़कां दे टुरदे मेकू सलाम जीवे मैं ये नहीं चाहता कि मेरे आके खुनाम जीवे बताम जीवे मैं ये नहीं चाहता ये जरूरी शेर है मैं ये नहीं चाहता कि मेरी रोटी भी छांगा मांगा दे मांग मैं ये नहीं चाहता कि झोंक मेरी में पानी भी हिक्का बिलांग हो मैं ये चाहना फकत ये चाहना कि मेरे घर में भूख ना होवे त्रे ना होवे सारे पानी को जेड़ा चेंदे बसे विच एदा दे ना basically, the tragedy of disappearance, of repression, of force, for the interests of a group of people or for an institution, is not something which is just limited to Sindh. This is all over. This is the tragedy, this is the pain and agony of a lot of us. And I think forums like this should recognize that it's important to talk about those others as well, include those voices, those cries, those sighs as well. And this is the opportunity which I'm taking here. Over 76 years, what has happened in Pakistan definitely is that military as an institution has expanded. And what I've seen is that it has evolved. So from a period which is 1958 to 1999 or 2008, a bit more 2008, was a period when the military would come and go. They would come, rule, then, leave running of the state to civilians, even, if it was just in name, unstable civilian governments, and then go back, then return. 2008, a fundamental shift happened in the thinking of the military. It shifted its emphasis from control of state to control of governments. And what we've seen that every civilian government that has come after 2008, including the People's Party government 2008 to 2013, the Pakistan Muslim League End government 2013 to 2018, and then the PTI government. from 2018 onwards, and then the PDM, they've all allowed the military a greater role. It now has a role in economic decisions. And this is the most damaging thing that could happen. And now, on the basis of their partnership, of running the economy, being partners in giving direction to the economy, they want to expand their control and have more land, acquiring more land. And this is not something which is about to stop. The other problem is that the military is also expanding itself. The 2000, the period under Musharraf, Mr. Manzoor team briefly talked about the Musharraf period. Let me tell you what other things happened under the Musharraf government. Under Musharraf government, they also expanded military's share of other regions. Let me put it the other way. Other regions share in the military. So, from predominantly 60s and 70s when Punjab was predominant, there's now 17 to 20% share of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, 40% share of Sindh, and under Musharraf, I think the least amount of share is of course Balochistan, and it's not entirely all Baloch, but in a lot of cases it's mainly people with Balochistan domicile. But in Sindh's case, it's a lot of people from Balochistan as well. I mean, in the last 2 years, what has happened, which has never happened in history before, that today there are 3 major generals, which means that they are ready to be elevated to lieutenant generals, are ethnic Sindhis. Soldiers, junior officers also included. So, this land distribution, be it in Sindh or in the rest of the country, I mean, they will partner in that, they will have that share as well. And that is something which is a primary mode of building, I mean, this is the formula of building nationalism as well. I just want to bring it to your attention that when we look at how land is being distributed, it's important to understand that it's not an outside problem, it's an inside problem as well. And in Sindh's case, you probably know better than I that this is very much an internal problem as well. The partner with the military is the Sindh government, which is a government of the Sindhis by the Sindhis. It is the People's Party government, which is ready to give them land, which is ready to, because for it the attraction is that, probably Bilal Bhutto might become the next Prime Minister. And therefore, the serious governance issues have to be shared. I mean, it's a problem which is not just created by the military, and I'm not involved in it. What I'm saying is, they have partners inside. And these are the inner battles that need to be fought. We cannot just say that there is, the problem in Sindh emanates from, just one direction. It is multi-dimensional. We heard this wonderful, excellent presentation on the state of health in Sindh. And those questions need to be seriously asked from the political government. And I think this forum should use itself to ask those very sharp, in fact, sharper questions about, if, elections are happening, people are voting, then, what is the direction of people's support? What is the direction of the government? I just end my presentation by saying that indeed Pakistan has become more sharply authoritarian. And this is not something which is about to go away. It is a civil-military partnership And the only method that they have of getting people to support is use of force and through silence. Silence and fear are the two keys that the state uses. Is the state going to become more political? I mean, I fear that what has happened is that the state itself has become apolitical, which means it doesn't want to follow any politics. You know, people like me, and I'm sure Sulema, and there are many others, who keep saying, why are you killing the Baloch? Why are you killing the Sindhis? Why are you killing people from tribal areas? Talk. But this is a state who just does not want to talk. You know, it has gone dumb. It's become voiceless. It only believes in action, in beating and killing and using force. And using that force to, to create that fear that people follow policy. And I think the sad part is that because of these partnerships that they have, the partnerships that they have with political parties, that is something which doesn't allow an Arab Spring to happen in Pakistan. You know, and what I mean by Arab Spring is that people rallying, coming out in numbers and saying, yes, we know where the problem is. The problem is due to the state, and we're not going to tolerate it. And it's precisely this partnership which is creating that problem of not of confusing people more. I mean, today with a poor economy, one would expect, electricity bills going up, gas bills going up, people would congregate, people would come out, but no. Hunger and poverty also creates more fear. And I think that is where the problem is. We need to recognize that, understand that, and actually come together. Whoever has the voice and has the understanding to come together, talk amongst ourselves, not Sindhi for Sindhi, Punjabi for Punjabi, or Pashtun for Pashtun, or Baloch for Baloch. The people who deserve justice, who need justice, to come together. I'll stop there.
Thank you, Ayesha Siddiqa. Mudat anokhi aandiya, mudat anokhi aandiya di tand vide talwaran sa, chakraya panja geet jade to aun sande diwaran sa, ha tunja bhari burj ludan, tu hino aa hatyaran sa, e kom budhaya the ke sa, chal tokhe muh takdiran ja, aj bagi bagi jes rate. So Tajar Santa Zealand, so Tajar Santa Zealand. Thank you very much, Ayesha Siddiqa, for such a brilliant speech. The actual government in Pakistan lies under the uniform, and the uniform people directly or indirectly are controlling the country, and the civilian government is actually touts of these, which is called uniform government. And in last 75 years, hardly you will see any corps commander forget about the chief of army staff in Sindh and Baloch. So we are fighting for our rights, and till we get our right to self-determination. My next speaker is Fahim Zaman. Mr. Fahim Zaman has twice served as the administrator of Karachi City. He has headed Karachi Water and Sewerage Board and Karachi Building Control Authority. Masters in philosophy. He has worked with Dawn Media Group for 16 years as an executive director and the Director, Corporate Affairs, from where he retired recently. He is also accredited for development of Dawn's exhaustive database, Dawn Giz, covering micro-level political, social, and economic data sheets. Lifelong progressive political activist, Fahim has also worked with leading CBOs, NGOs, and international humanitarian organizations, including ED Trust, Sindh Institute of Urology and Transplantation, Endowment Fund Trust for Preservation of Heritage in Sindh, and welfare organizations in Sindh. Mr. Fahim Zaman, floor is yours.
Surely sound system कुछ है no videographer and videographer
I actually drafted a 10,000 word document for this presentation. Reduced it to 2,500 words this morning. And I really don't feel like even looking at that presentation anymore. The reason is very simple. Sorry. Were you able to listen?
Yes.
So I was basically saying, the topic given to me was land grab by large housing schemes and its effect on people of trash. When you talk about large housing schemes, पहली चीज जो आपको कहना है वो DHA आता है, DHA, DHCT, etc. The 6 component boards, then Bahria Town, Karachi, then ESL housing, then the one Fidaiya housing will wrap up over it. Is अगर मुझे आप इजाज़त दें तो मैं सबसे पहले तो I'll try to explain कि when we talk about DHA, DHA used to be Defense Residence Society. Back in the 60s, the Ministry of Defense had requested KMC to allot them about 100 acres of land for the benefit of Shodas and widows of Shodas and orphans, etc. The KMC had turned down that request, saying that federal government has a lot of land and you must go back to federal government and take the land from them. But incidentally, a British Saab became the administrator of KMC, then he allotted what is now known as phase 1 of DHA and phase 2 of DHA. And it continued from today. The main DHA, the 8 phases, are about 8,800 acres. In 1981, Defense Residence Society was converted into Defense Housing Authority by a presidential order of Aomar, and was sort of moved under the wings of certain government. So completely independent of ANC. They still dependent for water, disposal of sewage, everything on the city and ANC, but they literally completely autonomous of them. In early 2000, I would say around 2005, the then administrator DHA approached government of Sindh asking for about 11,000 acres of land on the on Sugar Highway, which is now known as DHA City. That DHA City, even though by, I would say by 2010, at least half of the land mass of the DHA is 1 to 8 was still vacant and uninhabited. They asked for another 11,000 acres. Government of Sindh chiefs, and they obliged by allotting them 11,640. In 2009, they revised that request and they said, we we need another 5 to 7,000 acres of land to take care the family members, the wives and orphans of the shuhadas of war on terror. Lately, in 1998, Kargil war, Nai war to win, so that the war on terror became the excuse. And this 5 to 7,000 acres, which Administrator DHA has requested, Government of Sindh was pleased to allot 8,000, 7,000 acres in Deoboy and 1,000 acre in Dekharto. So total of 19,648 acres. अगर इसकी आप ऑफिशियल वैल्यू देखें तो वो तकरीबन बनती है कोई ऑफिशियल वैल्यू का 10% इन्होंने लाख रुपए एकड़ के हिसाब से दिया, which is like 1.9 billion or something. The market value of this land, as adverted by government itself officially, is 196 billion rupees. And I'm talking about 196 billion rupees of 2009, not so, I mean, meanwhile, DHSP has hardly, in the first 11,648 have hardly taken off, and the additional 8,000 are still to be developed. Now they have requested, a few months back, for another 6,000 acres of beachfront land on horse space. Pakistani Army is essentially 500,000 people, and maybe 10% would be in the ranks of the officers. All the DHAs and all the DHA cities, etc. Only the officer rather and very small percentage of Jawans or NCOs and DCOs ever get a plot. So for 50,000, if you divide that number into 500 or 1,000 square yard plots, even the total number of officers in Pakistan Army may not be able to occupy the whole of the first phase of DHA phase 1 to phase 8. So it is an amazing feat that, and by the way, while I was coming here, Ayesha was talking about other provinces, I just heard that they have demanded government of Balochistan to allot them 4,000 acres of land on between Gilani shipbuilding and Hapko power plant. The land there in acre is worth at least 3 crore rupees in acre. I know this because I bought 2 acres of that there from a local. So, I mean, you can't just imagine the amount of money. Why is this land this? Why are they, why the military, the Bahria, they all always involved in land scarce? I personally feel the reason is that over the years we have become an extremely unproductive society. We have no industry to run. We have no stocks to buy. It's only manipulation that you see 80,500 to cross Korea, stock market, etc. It's all manipulation. So because nobody has, there is nothing else going. So everybody is just trying to grab as much land as possible. And because the military being the biggest grabbers, the most powerful grabbers, they grab the most. But it doesn't mean that the junior partners would stay behind or would stay on the sidelines. 48 hours was approved from at every level, and about 11,000 plus acres of land was allotted to Bahria Town, Balochistan. The This land was in Delani, Kathor, uh, all it's very extensive. And the beauty of this allotment is that not only the this side of the superhighway where Bahria is today, even on the other side of superhighway where DHA is, was all these were. I mean, while I was doing these stories for Dawn, I went back to topographic sheets of 1968 and earlier, and the villages were there on those maps, existed back then and not now. By the way, this is a picture of a village right behind DHA city. This must be about 6 or 8 months old. So the original people who've been sitting on these lands for last hundreds of years or maybe thousands of years, I don't know, they still have to get their bucket full of water from the same pond where the dogs and the cattle and all the are getting the water. So coming back to Bahria Town, Bahria Town. I'm going to read a story on Bahria Town back in 2008. At that time, the Dawn GIS has identified through satellite imagery that Bahria Town already has about 23,300 acres. Interestingly, Mali Development Authority ran a scandal after scandal to allot this land or hand over this land to Bahria. When you look at Bahria Town is not simply Malik Riaz and they're definitely um, senior partners who are junior partners in DHA city. Okay. So the whole thing is, so if you physically go there, you meet people, how the police runs, I mean, young men are picked up and they're threatened that we will chew your arrest from Ghana or Masoom, will shoot you dead, and your dead body won't even be handed over to your family. So people tend to withdraw, and they continue to withdraw. And these monsters, Town, Karachi, and DHA city, ASF housing, Fizaya housing, and so many other, Saima, Vistas, all these large, very powerful people, very well-connected people, very, I mean, there's a lot of money to their credit. So they in a complete lawless environment that we share in Karachi, especially as well as the rest of the Sindh. I mean, the only uh, at this stage and point, the only um, defense people have to um, to face this wrath is to withdraw. And I have heard, spoken to stories after stories. And I remember when I went to this village, people were inside their village, and when they saw us in a four-wheel drive, it was an old four-wheel drive, nobody wanted to come out of there. Us, which refused to बाहर ही नहीं गए. They thought कि ये और ये DHA city के लोग आ गए, इनके consultants हैं या क्या हैं, और ये मजीद जमीन का सर्वे करने आए. अच्छा, अगर वो उसको resist करते तो मार पड़ती है तो उनका रोने वाला कोई. So nobody would come up. It took a lot of coercing them that they came out and started speaking. कराची शहर पे इस सारी चीज का क्या असर है? देखिए, I remember my papa used to work for railways. When he passed away, his wife, my puppy, got got his pension, whatever. So she used that money to buy 2 or 3 small apartments under construction or being built in New Karachi, North Karachi. In 2 years' time, she was able to double her money. But Karachi suffers from endemic shortage of housing. She was in that builder, and believe me, no builder in Karachi at least, I've never seen one who invests his own money in construction of flats, apartments, or buildings. So they were doing, together, they were adding much needed housing space for the city. With Bahria Town and DHA city, and I've spoken to DHA, Administrator DHA, he admitted that DHA city is not going to be populated for another 20 years. Bahria Town, same thing. But Bahria Town is like a sakka. It's speculation. So everybody, the greed takes over, common people in Karachi, and whatever they have, they go and invest in Bahria Town and DHA city and schemes like these. And what happens is that money, which was because the state is not going to provide housing to its people. This was the only way people of Karachi used to get some housing. So now that money is being siphoned off by these large societies, and Karachi is deprived for Abad Association of Builders and Developers in Karachi or Sindh. They really hate DHA and Bahria Town and schemes like this because they're literally taking away all the money which used to come their way by these big housing societies. Uh, I'm sure you must have heard about K4. K4 was water supply, the fourth water supply from Indus to city of Karachi. It was conceived back in 2002, and the MD water board at that time, Ayesha, had suggested that Tinjali, Hadero, and Halaji should be interconnected, and this should become a reservoir for another 650 million gallons of water. To begin with, Indus doesn't have water. But even if you use for some magic, you can bring water into Tingal, Hadero, and Halaji. The water is now, because each city was designed by or planned by the consultants called Usmani Associates. They were also the consultants for DHA City and later on became the consultants for K4. So what they did was all the water in coming to Karachi actually is drawn from India, but on the southern edge of the East India Lake. The water comes from Khoistan side, and if you do a depth study, the water on the northern side is very shallow, and the water towards National Highway on the southern side is depth so there is water there. So it's a logical thing. You draw water from where the water is, but to ensure that water would be supplied to DHA city instead of tapping the southern side, the Usmani and company decided to tap it from the northern side. Now the northern side doesn't have water. Now, if once you and the initially back in 2016, Frontier Works Organization was given the contract for transportation of 260 million gallons of water per day to Karachi from Egypt. They put against 25.5 billion. Till 2019 or 20, they had taken 14.5 billion rupees from the Sindh government, and not a single drop of water was even visible to, they were not able to even pump out any water. वो wrap up हो गया उसके बाद, but still, and by this time, everybody realized, wait, there is no water on the northern side, you will not be able to. And then they were trying to use a canal just to benefit DHA city. Now, incidentally, Bahria Town is also there. So the whole route was, K4 was rerouted to pass through Bahria Town. But I've gone public several times on television, etc. I said, if you can bring a drop of water from Kinjal via K4, please hang me in Empress Market. It's technically impossible. Even today, they are trying to do the same thing. So these big housing schemes is basically big mafias. All the mafias are connected. My reason to start looking into Bahria Town and DHA city was the murder of my very dear friend Fahim Zaman. I mean, she was murdered on 13th of March 2013. And I realized initially they said tanker मार के मार दिया, tank ये झगड़ा था, realized that's all rubbish. She was director of Murgi Pilot Project. She was documenting the original courts of Karachi. She had OPP till 13th of March 2018 documented 817 boats in and around Karachi, out of which about 550 were in Medaka, where DHA city, Bahria Town, Fizaiya, ASF housing, and all these big housing colonies schemes like that. So, once a boat is not documented, has not been regularized, आप जाके मतलब यहाँ DHA city के पीछे आप जूते मार के लोगों को उठा दें, कोई देखने वाला नहीं, कोई पूछने वाला नहीं, उनको सिर्फ धमकी दें कि आपको जो है we are going to lock you up and we are going to take your kids and shoot them dead, they will be okay. But if a boat has been regularized, now they have land rights, and once they have land rights, it's not just the boat, but they also have 160 plus acres of land for grazing, etc. Now the builder, now DHA city, now Bahria Town, and others, they have a tough time because people can go to a court of law and challenge them. So they cannot be just pushed away. So probably Parveen's murder was also, and it's not just Parveen, it's so many people who have been in that, on the outskirts have been killed. The way, and it's a ruthless, Aisha was talking about yeah, the junior partner, the military, and, believe me, money has no boundaries. Greed has no boundaries. The only reason I worked for Don, and I was responsible for Don GIS. Every time I have seen that, there is no political party to challenge PPP, or prior to that, challenge MQM. But MQM and People's Party and all these parties have been defeated by themselves. The total voter turnout would not be more than 37%. उस 37% में झूठा सच्चा 50% या 40% वोट आपको मिल गया, आपने गवर्नमेंट बना ली. Do you really represent the people? Have people really elected you? So it's severe political alienation, it's severe political apathy, and it is unfortunately, until there is a genuine political force which represents the people, not somebody who's just talking about corruption and this and that, genuinely based on ideological commitments, until that come in, or this country is going to just implode under the weight of its sins of its rulers. I don't see, I mean, people cannot think. There is so much apathy. I don't know. I mean, maybe I have become apathetic myself. So maybe I see apathy a little more than others. But there is severe disillusionment. People understand. I mean, I'm amazed at the level of understanding of people of Juma Memorial Board or visual studies, students of visual studies, Department of Graphics, and they realize what is right and what is wrong. The only thing is there is no force to lead them out of this malice, morass, and thank you.
Great, Stos. Thank you. Good.
Thank you, Fahim Zaman, for your very informative talk, and I hope everybody has learned a lot, and it's very informative. Thank you very much. वक्त याई वेल धोई दूर करण जी कढ मज़हब मन मां साझर साण सवेल हिंदू मोमिन हिक थी कर मोहब्बत जा मेल कोई मता थे अवेल सचू सिजन रहे. Now my next speaker is Suleiman Jahangir. Suleiman Jahangir is a solicitor in the UK and a regular speaker at the international conferences. She frequently appears on media platforms including BBC, ITV, and Pakistani channels, and has written articles on legal topics for newspapers such as the Sunday Times and Dawn. Suleiman is a visiting lecturer for ample course at the University of Cambridge and is a fellow of the International Academy of Family Lawyers. She chairs the Forced Marriage Committee and a member of Resolution Law Asia and the Pakistan Bar Council and the Lahore High Court Bar Association. Suleiman Jahangir, floor is yours.
Thank you so much, and thank you for inviting me at this very well organized event. And वो event पाकिस्तानी नहीं होता जो वैसे भी 1 घंटा लेट ना कर रहा हो. I was very pleased to see that. And thank you everyone for all the illustrious speakers before me. I could say that, I think mainly जो मोटी बात है वो हम सबने जो करनी है वो एक जैसी ही है. And I take up from what Ayesha Siddiqa said about the inner battles. And I think that's where I will start from, is the inner battles that politicians used to have with their senior partners. And I think the apathy that we feel is that those inner battles have completely stopped. There is now not even a pretense of them. एक ज़माना था जब हमारे politicians इतने बुरे नहीं होते थे. After all, we have politicians who have lost their lives for politics. Not just in Sindh, but in Balochistan, in KPK, in Punjab. So we have had politicians who have given up their lives and been murdered for doing politics. But I think sadly, they would be rolling in their graves now at the situation that we're in now. Because we're in a situation where politics has stopped being politicians have stopped doing politics. And they have basically said, there's not even a pretense. The pretense is that everything is normal, what they think is normal, but actually everyone knows, even a child will know that this is not normal. अब मुझे बताएं कि एक मुल्क में जहाँ पे इतनी ज़बरदस्त inflation है, people can't pay their bills, but yet you are denying people even the right to protest. So I mean, how are they going to breathe? It's just going to implode. And I think that is what we are going towards, where our politicians have not even bothered to even pretend that they are listening to people. मतलब उन्होंने बिल्कुल pretense पे छोड़ दिया, and they left this kind of time bomb which is ticking, and at some point there will be some kind of explosion, which is very sad. I mean, the topic that I was supposed to speak on was about religious minorities in Sindh, and I was going to talk about forced marriages and conversions, and I will come on to that later, because I've written extensively about it, and I'll talk to you about the law. But the context is very important, because minorities, majorities, everyone has to live in this country. And the context of this country is that we are now literally at a place where we have no hope from our leaders. So I wanted to talk about the other issue, which is in this context, is the issue of blasphemy. And this is an issue that we can't talk about. I recently wrote an article about it, which none of the newspapers wanted to publish. So I mean, I still published it in sort of social media, but none of the newspapers wanted to publish it because it was about blasphemy, and it is the one thing that scares us all. Because ये एक आपके senior partners ने एक license to kill दे दिया, ठीक है? And that license to kill was usually for them, but now it's for everyone. For example, the other day I was getting messages from my friends कि आपका कोई fake Facebook account कोई fake किसी ने बनाया, you know? I mean, normally I'm so busy I wouldn't care, but now I would be worried because what happened to Dr. Shanawaz in Umarkot? And उसके बारे में people in Umarkot are worried. Why was Dr. Shanawaz murdered by the police? But आपके politicians ने क्या किया? They are silent. Not silent, actually one PPP का MP, PPP, which is our more forward-looking party, which is a more inclusive party, which is the one party in Pakistan that sort of our liberal left would vote for. Uska MP said, well, it was very good that the police shot him. I mean, that man had a Facebook account. People जिनको नहीं पता इस केस के बारे में. Just recently, a doctor was murdered in Umarkot in Sindh on charges of the police murdered him because apparently on his social media account there was some blasphemous allegedly content posted. He said that my social media account, someone hacked into it. He handed his phone to the police. He said, take me to prison. Here's my phone, but just don't kill me. The police shot him. Not the people, not the mob, the police shot him. And then when his mother tried to bury his body, she was told that you can't bury it. आप इधर से ले जाएं, because the police wanted to wipe out the evidence of the murder, right? So she buried it in the jungle, and the police went and burned the body down, so that there is no evidence there. What did the government do? They suspended 3 police officers and they made an inquiry committee, which is headed by the police, to look into what the police have been doing. Right? But that man is now dead. Similarly, Quetta में भी एक हफ्ते पहले एक और blasphemy पे एक murder हुआ. So this is something that I think, I mean, for me, if I were to live in Pakistan, it would be a very, very serious worry for me. Because, if I'm a lawyer, I'm practicing, anyone can say, इसने ये कर दिया या ये का. I mean, what kind of country is that? And जहाँ पे 97% people are Muslims, I mean, how does this make sense? And they're not just Muslims, they're practicing Muslims. I mean, Pakistan is a very religious place. So, I mean, anyway, so the article that I wrote about was also about, not technically about blasphemy, but it was a case of this MD man whose name was Mubarak Sani. He was in prison for an offense जो अभी तक बना नहीं था. Offense अभी तक introduce नहीं हुआ. Offense ये था कि you cannot distribute certain prescriptive books. He distributed a book to someone and he was put in prison. So the case got काफी देर prison में रहा. Anyway, the case was appealed again, came to Justice Faizisa. Justice Faizisa said that you cannot, under the Constitution, imprison someone for an offense retrospectively. Because offense तो तब introduce ही नहीं हुआ था. And इसने anyway जो उसका offense था, उसकी punishment 6 months, he already spent 18 months in prison. So इसको I'm going to acquit him. So he was released on bail. And of course, the Malvis, the Jamaat-e-Islami, and our PMLN. Now this is another of our junior partners जो हैं हमारे. इनकी बताती मैं आपको बताती हूँ. PMLN government, जहाँ पे लोगों के पास भूख और बिजली के बिल के पैसे नहीं हैं, इनकी क्या प्रायोरिटी है? मुबारक सानी को वापस जेल में डालो. Can you imagine? So PMLN government, along with Jamaat-e-Islami, ने खूब जुलूस निकाले against Faizisa. said कि तुम भी blasphemy करोगे अगर तुम उसको बंदे को छोड़. So खूब जुलूस निकाले, and Faizisa, the PMLN government filed an appeal. This was an appeal. This was in the Supreme Court. This is the highest court. There is no appeal to the Supreme Court. there is a review jurisdiction of the Supreme Court, which is should be used very rarely, not for this kind of a regular case. But they said, "Okay, आप इसको review करो decision." So the judge ने review कर दिया. Judge ने कहा कि there is already an offence for this. He's already been in prison for this. But MDs should be allowed to practice in the privacy of their own home, practice their religion in the privacy of their own home. And of course, Jamaat-e-Islami and PMLN government said this is not good enough. Why did you say that they should be allowed to practice in their own home? And this should be taken out of the judgment. But the judgment has now already been reviewed and there is no further recourse. So they came to court and जो आपके फाइल्स हैं, who's usually quite rude to lawyers, जब उसके सामने वो बेयर होते हैं, and he's a judge who's not scared of anyone. But in front of the Maulana Fazlur Rahman, he was like this. And Maulana Fazlur Rahman said कि नहीं जी आप ये अपनी judgment review करें. उन्होंने कहा कि जी मैंने तो decision हो गया, there is no possible another way to do this. But he then amended his judgment again, which means that any judgment of the Supreme Court is not a final judgment. So आप मुझे बताएं कि अब as a lawyer in Pakistan अब आप statistics देखें तो जो हमारे cases होते हैं where people are hanged, right? So आप trial court में जाते हैं तो criminal है, they even death punishment. 76% of those death row prisoners are acquitted on appeal. उसका मतलब है कि 76% जो लोग death row पे बैठे हैं आपके prisons में, they are innocent. ठीक है ना, वो अपील हो जाती है, वो सुप्रीम कोर्ट में चली जाती है. If I was a criminal and I was supposed to be hanged, and if I was to go to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court gives me a final decision, I would say कि नहीं आप review करेंगे because ये भी तो बड़ा sensitive matter है, it's my life. अगर religion sensitive matter है तो मेरी जिंदगी भी sensitive matter है. So is that decision of Mubarak Sani, does that mean that now our judiciary is saying that there is no certainty of justice system? कि आपकी जब एक फाइनल अपील हो जाती है उसके बाद अगर मौलवी आ जाएं तो they can reopen it, they can change it. So it makes a mockery of your independence of judiciary and the certainty of the judicial system. And our own government is responsible, and that is the PMLN government. PMLN government ने पहले भी इस तरह की बहुत सारी stupid चीजें की for which they have suffered later on. And this is another thing, and I'm pretty sure that they will suffer later on from this own mistake. So, I mean, this is the status of your law and order and judicial system right now in Pakistan. The topic I was going to talk about was about religious minorities in Sindh and mainly women and what is happening with them and what is worrying religious minorities in Sindh. So I will start with what my mother used to say. She used to tell me that, there is still colonization in the world because women are the largest colony. And within that colony, I would say that the women who are of religious minorities will be the last to be decolonized, at least in Pakistan. And within this context, I will talk to you about cases of religious minorities in Sindh. So, what is really worrying for Hindus and Christians in Pakistan is the forced conversions and forced marriages of girls. I mean, I've had Christian organizations who have drawn up lists of women who have been converted. Those lists के अंदर you will be surprised that there are even 1-year-old babies who are being converted to Islam. अब मुझे बताएं 1-year-old baby किस तरह का religion change कर? So Sindh is one of the provinces in Pakistan which I am proud to say is one of the more progressive provinces compared to the others. आपके जो laws हैं for women, for religious minorities are little more advanced. ठीक है ना? For example, it's the only province जहाँ पे marriage की age raise कर दी है to 18. ठीक है ना? For both men and women. Sindh is the only province which was going to outlaw forced conversions. So again, the same situation of our politicians came. The bill was signed by the Sindh Assembly, but then Jamaat-e-Islami again started a protest. So आपका जो governor था, he backed away from signing. Governor का तो सिर्फ ceremonial role होता है. जब Assembly ने pass कर दिया law, the governor has to sign it. But the governor refused to sign it because of the pressure of the Jamaat-e-Islami. So here again, the ruling government, जो आपकी PPP है, backtracked. Why did the assembly pass it? The assembly passed it because it is a problem. Forced conversions and marriages are a problem. They're a problem in Sindh and they're a problem in Punjab. They're a problem everywhere, but particularly so in Sindh and Punjab. अब आपकी जो हिंदू community है, this is their most pressing issue because they are so worried about their daughters being forcibly converted and married. For example, there were these two sisters in Sindh who were married off in a Hindu family, and they were taken to Punjab. I will explain this case. So basically, the local groups there, जो Sindh में हैं, आपके local politicians. भी एक है मिट्टू मियां मिट्टू and उसके साथ के जो local groups हैं वो are also PPP affiliates. They are the ones who are sort of behind all of this. So these two girls who were married to men much elder to them who already had wives and children, and they were taken by Mian Mittu all the way to Punjab to avoid the 18-year-old law in Sindh. They were married there. And then after they were married, they couldn't see their parents again. And they couldn't see their parents again because they said, ye to ab kafir ho gaye, so you can't see them. So basically, once these girls are married, they become lost. They become lost to the system. And this is the worrying thing. And aapke jahan tak courts hain, courts are saying, sorry, if the girl says that I want to be married, that's it. Even if she's underage, it doesn't matter. Now, child marriage is a criminal offense in Pakistan, but no one has ever been punished for it. ठीक है ना? वो तो offense apply ही नहीं करता. अब in our own office, we had recently last year a 15-year-old Christian girl who ran away from home and then got married to some boy who was Muslim and converted. And the parents were obviously very worried. We went to court, the High Court. The court said, "No, she's married out of her own will, so let her go back to her husband." So I think that there needs to be some law. I think our religious minorities are right. There needs to be some law about conversion. If people wish to convert, there should be a minimum age, and there should be a legal process by which this should happen. And whether it should be in front of a magistrate or there has to be some document. ये तो नहीं है कि 1-year-old children are converting and then they are being married off, at 12 or 13. So I think that Sindh did make some progress. But as usual, our politicians were not able to. Our politicians backed out. So I think that we all are talking about different aspects, but I think the underlying theme is the same, and that is that, frankly, the inner struggles, the inner आपकी चलती थी between the politicians and the army, वो खत्म हो गई. अब तो वो एक पेज पे रहे. एक पेज पे भी नहीं है. They're not on any page. I think the politicians are not on any page. They are just there. And that's it. And I think that past is now being exposed so badly. And I think anyone in Pakistan would say that. So, I mean, the kind of progress, we had some progress, there were tiny steps. A lot of laws were made by the Sindh government which improved women's lives, which improved religious minorities' lives. There was work done. I mean, after Work for Christians, the Divorce Act was introduced. I mean, there was progress made. But sadly, now I feel that we are at that political juncture where we have to cajole our politicians. That, you need to do something. You need to be on some page. Even if you're on the same page, but be on some page. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Salman Jahangir, for your very informative talk and talking of the judicial system in Pakistan and what politicians were supposed to do, they are not doing. And Shahnawaz Kumbar's case is there, and we have been raising against these blasphemy laws and post-conversion girls are looking for justice system now. मज़हबन मुल्क में मानू मुझाया, शेखें पीरें बुजुर्गी बेहद भुलाया, के निबड़ी निमाज़ों पढ़न किन मंदिर वसाया, राडो कीन आया अकुल वराइश कहे.
1
Thank you very much. My next speaker is a Baloch speaker. Samin aya Sindh mein nawa nadir shah, kane ka tarikh mein ved sawai di ba, mata socho sa, mata moto badakha. Dr. Nasim Baloch is a chairman of Baloch National Movement, a key political organization advocating for the rights and self-determination of Baloch people. Dr. Baloch became involved in a national movement during his student years, driven by deep commitment to the Baloch cause. His activism led to his forced disappearance by Pakistani Army, a tactic frequently employed against Baloch activists. Despite these challenges, Dr. Baloch played an instrumental role in organizing and strengthening the BNM, particularly within the Baloch diaspora. Before being elected chairman, he served as the organizer of BNM Diaspora Committee, where he expanded the movement's international outreach and support. His resilience and leadership have made him a significant figure in Baloch politics and human rights advocacy. Dr. Nasim Baloch, floor is yours.
हेलो जी, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। ख़वातीन हज़रात, अस्सलाम वालेकुम। शुक्रिया अपने सिंधी दोस्तों का जिन्होंने मुझे ये एजाज़ बख्शा कि मैं बलोच मुजाहिद तहरीक या बलोच कौम के नुमाइंदे की हैसियत से इस मजलिस में शरीक हूँ। मुझसे पहले तमाम स्पीकर्स ने पाकिस्तान, सिंध, बलूचिस्तान के हालात पर और मसाइल पर और शायद उनके सॉल्यूशन या हल पर अपनी तजावीज़ भी दी, बात की। मेरा नुक्ते नज़र शायद उनकी बातों से या उनके सॉल्यूशन से थोड़ा मुख्तलिफ हो या सख्त हो। उसके लिए मैंने पहले से ड्राफ्ट तैयार किए, तो मैं शुरू इस ड्राफ्ट से करूँगा, लेकिन शायद कुछ चीज़ें मैं इजाफा करूँ या रिपीटेशन से बचने के लिए छोड़ दो। सिंधी कौम की कदामत मौजूद दौरों की कदीम तहजीब और सबसे बढ़कर सिंधु दरिया से फैज़याब सरजमीन के बाशिंदों के दरमियान मौजूदगी मेरे लिए बाइस फख्र है। आज हमें साइंस और टेक्नोलॉजी के जदीद दौर में आलमी कौमों की बिरादरी में एक बावकार मकाम पर अपनी कौम और अपनी समाज के फलाह व बहबूद के साथ साथ इंसानियत की खिदमत में अपना किरदार अदा करना चाहिए था, लेकिन हमारी कौम में मौजूद है बलोच और सिंधी, हमारी कौम में जख्मी और लहू लहाँ है। हमारी सरजमीन हमसे छीन ली गई है। हमारी इज्तिमाई जिंदगी काबिज के रंग खरम पर है। बहर बलोच से लेकर बलोच कोहसारों की तरह सिंध सागर, सिंध की सरजमीन, सिंधी तहजीब व सकाफत और सिंधु दरिया पर पाकिस्तान काबिज है। हमें हमारी तारीख से जुदा कर दिया गया है। हम डोर से कटी पतंग की मानद यूरोप में अपने टुकड़े जोड़ने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, वरना आज की ये मजलिस मौजूदों के अहाते में आज़ाद सिंधु देश की सरजमीन पर सिंधी पगड़ी मुनक्किद हो रही होती और मैं एक पनाहगज़ीर या इज़्ज़ात की जिंदगी गुजारने वाले की बजाय एक हमसाया और बरादर मुल्क के नुमाइंदे की हैसियत से शरीक होता। तो ये क्या ही मजलिस और क्या ही दीवान होता। सिंधी फनकार अलगोज़ा बजाता, बलोच फनकार बेजों की धुन पर समाम बांध देता। आज ये अजरक मुझे आप सिंधी देश की सरजमीन पर पहनाते और बलूचिस्तान से बुजुर्गों की वफ्द के साथ स्टेज पर खड़ा होकर सिंधी बलोच मुश्तरका मुफादात के लिए बलोच दानिश का पैगाम पेश करते। लेकिन अफसोस ये सब बातें हैं, बिखरे ख्यालात हैं, अधूरे ख्वाब हैं, जिन्हें हकीकत में डालने के लिए हम अंग्रेजों की सरजमी पर इकट्ठे हो चुके हैं। क्यों? इस क्यों के जवाब के लिए लंबी चौड़ी तकरीर या रॉकेट साइंस की जरूरत नहीं है, क्योंकि हकीकत यह है कि हम नव आबादी हैं, हम गुलाम हैं, हमारी हस्ती हमारी नहीं है, हमारी सरजमीन हमारी नहीं है, हमारे इख्तियारात हमारे हाथों में नहीं हैं। हम बिखरे पिसे हुए लोग हैं, ख्वाबों के सौदागर हैं। वो सिंध जो मजहबी रवादारी और इंसान दोस्ती की सरजमीन थी, आज मजहबी शिद्दत पसंदी की अफलियत का शिकार हो चुकी है। जब हमारे स्पीकर इधर फोर्स कन्वर्जन वसाइल की लूटमार की बात करते हैं, तो ये फोर्स कन्वर्जन वसाइल की लूटमार ये पाकिस्तान के बनने से पहले नहीं थी। बलूचिस्तान हो या सिंध की सरजमीन, वहाँ पर जिन मजहबों को हम इधर अक़लियत करार दे रहे हैं, वो सिंध में सिंधी थे, बलूचिस्तान में बलोच थे। आज पाकिस्तान ने अक़लियत में तब्दील करने के नाम पर हमारे जुबान पे भी यही अल्फाज ठोस दिए हमारे दिमागों में कि हम भी उनको अपने से जुदा करके अक़लियत का नाम दें। इसी को कहते हैं कालूली, इसी को कहते हैं गुलामी। हम अपनी आका की बातों को हकीकत समझकर उन्हें आलमी बिरादरी के सामने और इस जैसे फोरम पे भी उसी तरह बयान करते हैं जो हमारे आका काबिल पाकिस्तान ने हमारे जहनों में ठोस दिए। आज सिंध की वसाइल को सिंधी लोगों की नस्ल कुशी के लिए इस्तेमाल की जा रही है। सिंधी माएँ, बलोच माएँ अपने बच्चों के गम में आंसू बहा रही हैं। सिंधी नौजवान पाकिस्तानी फौज के काफिर सेलों में ड्रिल मशीन से छलनी की जा रही है। आज यहाँ सीनियर और वतन के दर्द से सरशार लोग बैठे हैं और हम अपनी आंखों से इन ममालिक की तरक्की और इंसानी फलाह का मुशाहिदा कर रहे हैं, लेकिन इन ममालिक को, यूरोप को ये तरक्की किसी ने प्लेट में पेश नहीं किया है। इन अक़वाम ने, ओवरऑल मगरबी अक़वाम ने 2 जंग अजीम का सामना किया, करोड़ों इंसानों का खून बहाया गया। यूरोप ने अपने तारीख दौर का मुशाहिदा किया। तो दोस्तों, हमें हकीकत पसंद बनकर सोचना होगा। आज जो यूरोपीय अक़वाम तरक्की की बुलंदियों पर फायज हैं, वो मुख्तलिफ और मुश्किल रास्तों से गुजरी हैं और हमें भी न चाहते हुए इन्हीं रास्तों पर खून की नदियां पार करनी होंगी। हमें ज्यादा कुव्वत से चीखना और चिल्लाना होगा, ज्यादा दुख सहने पड़ेंगे, क्योंकि हमारा दुश्मन सफाक है। हमारी दुश्मन की फौज एक मजहबी जुनूनी दरिंदा है जो हमारी नस्ल खुशी को अपने ईमान की बका समझ रही है। दुश्मन हमारी फितरत और मिजाज से हमें हमारी फितरत और मिजाज से काटने की कोशिश कर रहा है। वो ये जताने की कोशिश कर रहा है कि आज़ादी की मांग करने वाले तरक्की व तामीर के दुश्मन हैं, ये तखरीबकार है। अगर ऐसा होता तो बरतानिया उज़्मा जैसा तरक्की याफ्ता मुल्क हिंदुस्तान को तरक्की क्यों नहीं दे सका? हिंदुस्तान और नामनहाद पाकिस्तान अपनी आज़ादी पर क्यों फख्र करते हैं? क्योंकि हिंदुस्तान गुलाम था, आज हिंदुस्तान आज़ाद है। उसको इंग्लिस्तान या बरतानिया तरक्की नहीं दे सकती। इसी तरह पाकिस्तान बलूचिस्तान और सिंध को तरक्की नहीं दे सकता। मेरी गुजारिश का मकसद यह है कि दुश्मन हमारी जद्दोजहद को दबाने के लिए हर मुमकिन हरबाज इख्तियार करेगा। वो हमारी शुराहत को मिटाने, हमारे इरादों को तोड़ने और हमारी तहरीक को नाकाम बनाने के लिए मुख्तलिफ तरीके आजमाएगा। लेकिन इन तमाम हरबों के मुकाबले में हमें साबित कदम रहना होगा, क्योंकि हमारी तहरीक हक की बुनियाद पर है और हक को दबाया नहीं जा सकता। हमें अपनी कौम और समाज को ये समझाना होगा कि गुलामी में न तरक्की है, न इज्जत और न खुशी। गुलाम कभी अपनी तकदीर का मालिक नहीं बन सकता और न ही अपने फैसले खुद कर सकता है। हमें इन लोगों की और उन नामनहाद कौमपरस्तों की हकीकत भी बेनकाब करनी होगी जो जुल्म व जबर और तशद्दुद को महज किसी एक हुकूमत या चंद अफराद का अमल करार देते हैं। क्योंकि सिंध और बलूचिस्तान पर जो जुल्म व जबर जारी जा रही है, इस दौरान कई हुकूमतें, कई लीडर तब्दील हुई, लेकिन बलूचिस्तान और सिंध की तकदीरें और उन पर जारी जुल्म सितम का सिलसिला नहीं रुक सका। हमें उन सियासतदानों का भी मुकाबला करना होगा जो पाकिस्तानी रियासत के फ्रेमवर्क में रहते हुए नए मुआहदात और इस्लाहात का धोखा दे रहे हैं। ये वो लोग हैं जो गुलामी के निज़ाम को बरकरार रखना चाहते हैं। हमारी गुलामी में उनका हिस्सा और मुफादात है, इसलिए वो इसे एक नई शक्ल में पेश कर रहे हैं, जबकि असल मसला कौमी सवाल और कौमी आज़ादी का है, न कि महज हुकूमत या कानून में तब्दीली का। कुछ सीनियर सियासतदान जो बलोचों और सिंधियों में मौजूद हैं, हमें एक नए इमरानी मुआहदे का झांसा देने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। शायद सिंध में चर्चा ज्यादा हो रहा होगा। ये इस्तिसाली निज़ाम को बरकरार रखने का एक नया तरीका है, लेकिन हमें साबित कदम रहकर अपनी कौम को ये समझाना होगा कि इस धोखे में ना आए, क्योंकि गुलामी के किसी भी निज़ाम में कोई हकीकी तब्दीली नहीं आती जब तक कि आज़ादी और खुद मुख्तारी हासिल ना हो। हाज़रीन, मुझे ये कहने की इजाज़त है कि सिंधी कौम का मसला भी बलोच कौम की तरह इंसानी हकूक या वसाइल की लुटमार के खिलाफ नहीं है, बल्कि कौमी आज़ादी का है। गुलाम कौम के लिए इंसानी हकूक का कोई तसव्वुर नहीं होता, क्योंकि गुलामी की हालत में हकूक की बात महज एक फरेब बन जाती है। गुलाम सिर्फ गुलाम होता है और उसकी जिंदगी में कोई भी तशरीह उसकी हकीकत को मसख करने और उसके इस्तेमाल का जरिए बन जाती है। जब तक कौम आज़ाद न हो, तब तक इंसानी हकूक का मुतालबा करना जख्मों की तरह उस पर सतही भरम लगाने के मुताबिक है। असल मसला उस बीमारी का खात्मा है जिसके बुनियादी असबाब हैं। हमें मरहम के बजाय उस बीमारी के खात्मे और मर्ज को सर्जरी के जरिए काट करके ख़त्म करने की ज़रूरत है, जो है पाकिस्तान के बच्चों का। सिंधी और बलोच खित्ता आज सरापा दर्द बन चुका है, लेकिन हम मायूस नहीं हैं। हमारी कौमी सिमत दुरुस्त साबित हो रही है और आज दुनिया के सामने, हमारी अपनी कौम के सामने पाकिस्तानी जबर तैयार हो चुका है। सबको नजर आ रहा है कि पाकिस्तानी फोर्सेस किस तरह सिंध और बलूचिस्तान या की पीछे में जुल्म जबर डाल रहे हैं। जब रियासत तशद्दुद का रास्ता इख्तियार करती है तो ये इस बात का सबूत है कि महकूम कौम अगरचे बज़ाहिर ज़ेर दस्त नजर आती है, लेकिन हकीकत में रियासती अस्करी खौफ को शिकस्त दे चुकी होती है। आज लोग बाहर निकल रहे हैं, अपनी आवाज़ बुलंद कर रहे हैं और मुज़ाहिमत अब अवामी नफ्सियत का हिस्सा बन चुका है। यही हमारी फतेह है। दुश्मन अपने तशद्दुद के जरिए अपनी शिकस्त की बीज बो रहा है। इस वक्त उसे लग सकता है, एक सोच यही है कि लेकिन सच यही है कि शिकस्त बातिल का मुकद्दर फेर चुकी है और आखिरकार जीत मट्टी और मट्टी के हकीकी वारिसों की होगी। आज बलूच कौम की तरफ से हम कहते हैं कि हमारा अटल फैसला है और हमारी मंजिल आज़ादी है। हम बारहा इस ज़मन में तमाम अक़वाम से, सिंधी भाइयों से हम कई सालों से एक साथ काम कर रहे हैं। हमने 12 एहतियात की बातें की हैं। हम एहतियात के समरात से अच्छी तरह वाकिफ़ हैं, लेकिन हमारी एहतियात की जड़ें हमारे अमल में बिनान है। जब हमारा अमल और हमारी मंजिल एक वाज़ेह रास्ते पर मुतय्यन होंगे तो अमल के मैदान में इश्तराक और दुख दर्द बांटना फितरी अमल बन जाएगा। इस वक्त शायद हमें इन सब बातों के लिए तकरीरों की ज़रूरत न पड़े। मैं एक दफ़ा फिर सिंधी भाइयों दोस्तों का इस प्रोग्राम के ऑर्गेनाइजर्स का तहे दिल से शुक्रिया अदा करता हूँ। बतौर मजलूम और महकूम कौम के नुमाइंदे के आप मुझे हमेशा अपनी सफ़ों में पाएंगे। हमारा सफ़र जारी है और हम अपनी मंजिल पर पहुँचकर ही दम देंगे। आज़ाद बलूचिस्तान जिंदाबाद, आज़ाद सिंधी जिंदाबाद।
Thank you, Dr. Nasim Baloch, for such a nice and wonderful speech. And we are looking for right of self-determination and freedom till our victory together. And this session is going to be finished now. For the request of our speakers to have a seat, and I will hand over to Fahim Zaman Khan.